Hi everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I always know it's time to make a video whenever I get asked the same question from multiple people in a short amount of time. And for some reason in the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of people asking about how to start a band. And I think the best way to answer that is to actually just tell you my story of how we were able to put a band together when we were around the age of 13 that still persists to this day. I think it's kind of a rare thing for that to happen. So I would consider that a success story. So I think a lot of you who watch the channel know I always talk about my old teenage metal band called Sanctus. And it was kind of funny how a lot of people think that it was really easy for us to form as a band, because a lot of people are under the misconception that back in the old days, everybody played guitar, everybody played an instrument. So all you had to do was find the right people and bam, you had a band. But I'm going to explain in this video that was not the case at all. And by the way, this is just going to be a little bit of a short introduction of how the band got put together. We're going to actually do a full documentary in the next year or so that's going to explain all of this again, but with a lot more footage and then beyond. So we're going to talk about when we started to tour, when we got signed and all that good stuff. But for today, I really just want to talk about how the band was formed in order to answer the question that people have been asking me. So I'm going to go all the way back to when I was age 12 and I was trying to get into drumming. My dad taught me how to play Wipeout with my hands when I was about 8 years old, and ever since then I was obsessed with playing drums. So I didn't have money or anything like that, so what I did was I would just collect ice cream buckets. It's kind of that old story that a lot of people tell. I'd put ice cream buckets on my bed, and then I would actually bang on them with chopsticks. And that's how I started to, get introduced into the world of drumming. I ended up doing a lot with a little bit back then. My brother and I would put on these weird little concerts in the basement, and he would pretend to be Bon Jovi, and we would play along to the songs, so it was kind of fun. But I wanted to go to the next level. So I remember asking for a pair of real drumsticks for Christmas, and I ended up getting them. So I was in heaven, but the problem was, well, these real drumsticks felt like they weighed 5 pounds each because I was so used to chopsticks. So it took a little getting used to. My grandma felt bad for me because she saw that I was playing on ice cream buckets on my bed, so she actually went out and bought me a kid's drum set. And I was about 12 at this time, like I said, and this drum set was made for more like 5-year-olds, I think. It was made out of aluminum, and it had a kick drum and a couple of drums coming off of it, but it didn't have any hardware, no cymbal stands or anything like that. So luckily my cousin had left 3 old cymbals in our basement because he used to play. And so what I did was I took one of the cymbals and I put it on an old lamp. I took the shade off of the lamp and I used the lamp as a cymbal stand. And I used to play those drums all the time. And right about that time, my best friend Al started getting into guitar. So he bought a Squier Stratocaster. It was like a cream color, and a practice amp. And he would take guitar lessons, and then he would come over to my place and we would jam whatever he learned together. So he started to play, Rock You Like a Hurricane, Iron Man. He just knew a lot of cool power chord songs. It really felt great going into the basement and jamming together, and we thought, you know what, we need a band name. We always wanted to move forward. We always were wondering what the next step would be. So we decided to call ourselves Whiplash, first of all, because that was a Metallica song that we weren't good enough to play, but we aspired to play someday. So we're like, let's just call ourselves Whiplash. And then over time, we changed that to Steel Rage. You gotta love all these young kid names for bands. That's the kind of stuff that sounded cool to us back then. Steel Rage. I don't know what we were raging about back then so much, but if you look at the picture, you can see that we look pretty harmless. I love that we actually took the time to make a sign. So we had a backdrop already, and I think we used tinfoil to make the letters. And then I remember putting the tape on the kick drum so that it said Steel Rage. And then I believe I put a light inside of it. It was just one of those lights that your dad uses to work on the car in the garage. Just threw that inside, and I thought it looked cool. I grew up watching Peter Criss with Kiss. So we would jam together. We actually recorded ourselves on a cassette a few times, and we'd listen back, and we would never play full songs. We would just play one riff and say, okay, that's our first tune. We would just play a little bit of Iron Man. Okay, we have the second tune. And when we got up to about 6 songs, I started to change what I was interested in. My brother bought a guitar and an amp out of nowhere. And next thing I know, he was giving up on the guitar, and I started to play the guitar every time he left. So I got into that more than he did, and it ended up becoming more of an interest than drums for me. So I gave Al the news. I said, you know what, I think I want to switch to guitar. Are you cool being a 2-guitar band instead of a guitarist and a drummer? He's like, yeah, that's cool. We can always just find another drummer. That's totally fine. And I guess the decision was final when Al decided to just sit on the kick drum. And because it was a cheaper drum kit made out of aluminum, it just squashed to the ground. And I remember he laughed his ass off, but I was kind of mad because I'm like, dude, my grandma bought me that kit. But either way, it led to the point of no return. Like, there was no way I'm going back to that kit. At least it's time to really get serious about guitar. So I became totally obsessed. I wanted to be Lars Ulrich, but now I wanted to be Kirk Hammett. So I spent 6 hours a day practicing because I had a funny feeling I wanted to be a lead guitar player. So I really had to put in the time. So Al and I kept practicing, except instead of playing drums now, I was playing guitar and standing up next to him. And we started jamming standing up, which is good because we wanted to put on shows and we knew we were going to do like a concert soon. So we ended up doing a few shows together where we would just play guitar. The very first one was kind of an awkward concert. I think my dad and my grandma were there. Luckily, my grandma was there because she videotaped everything on her Betamax recorder. And we just kind of played through a couple of riffs and we called it a concert. But the most important part of that is we got through it. It was our very first performance together ever, and I felt really proud once we hit the last note because it's like we pulled it off, Even though I look back at it now and it was terrible, the guitar sounded really bad, we were out of tune, we looked weird. But we did it. We got through it. Once again, we were like, what's next? How do we get to the next level? So we ended up changing our name. Now we're called Assault and Battery. And we thought, we need to make t-shirts, we have to make a brand new sign. So we were already thinking of marketing our band in a really weird way. We were only about 13 at this point. We went to Radio Shack and we bought a blacklight and we bought a karaoke machine with a microphone and a microphone stand, I believe. Al decided that he was going to start to sing, and I thought, okay, that's going to be great because that's like James Hetfield. So he plays rhythm guitar and he could sing. I'll just be Kirk Hammett over here playing lead. And we put on another show, and with a blacklight, it was a lot of fun because we took these green stickers and we put them on our fret markers so that we could see in the dark, and I thought that looked really cool at the time. And we set up all the chairs and we put little name tags on each one of the chairs for the VIP. Like, we thought of everything back then. It's crazy. And one of the chairs was my grandma. She had a reserve chair because she would be videotaping us, and that was really important. And we played the show, and I was very proud of Al because it was the first time he was singing while playing. Well, he didn't really sing and play at the same time. He had to stop playing guitar when he sang because he didn't have the coordination quite yet. But we got through our second show, and it was a lot cooler because we had a blacklight. There is nothing more for me. Set me free. Al's gonna kill me when he finds out that I showed some footage of him singing back then, but we'll compare that to later Sanctus footage to hopefully make up for it. After that show, Al and I were flying high. We're like, okay, let's keep building up the band. Al was not that confident in his singing at the time, and so we thought, you know what, let's just get a lead singer. Then we could have somebody singing, and Al and I could hold down the guitar duties, behind the singer. We knew this kid named Matt, and he looked really cool. He looked like Robert Plant. He was tall, he had long hair, he wore jean jackets with patches and boots, and he just looked like the perfect front man. So we didn't know if he could sing or not, so we invited him over to my basement to jam. And I remember we kicked into the first song, we tried to play Peace Sells by Megadeth, and we thought it was just going to be awesome, because he looked cool. I thought, he has to have a voice to match his look. That was not the case, and that was a tough lesson we had to learn. He started to sing, he was off key and off time, and Al and I were looking at each other like, ugh, I think we made a big mistake. And then Al had to actually sing next to Matt in order to get Matt to start on the right time. And so afterwards, we're like, this is really stupid, Why don't we just have Al sing? He knows the lyrics, he's already been singing, let's just go that direction. So that was a tough lesson, but we were back to just me and Al. So we thought, okay, we need a bass player and we need a drummer. So let's just have like a big jam. Let's invite a bunch of people that we know play instruments and see what happens. So we found 4 guys that were kind of our friends. We would talk to them every once in a while, but we weren't hanging out friends or anything like that. And we brought them all over, and we found out that one of them played drums, but the other 3 just played guitar. So we literally had 5 guitar players in the basement at one time. It was a chaotic mess. Here's a little sample. I found a cassette tape of the jam session. Here it is. So we have 6 guys in the basement, and half of the time this half was playing one song and then the other half was playing a different song. The drummer Andy was just doing fills. He wasn't even really playing a beat half the time. And the funniest part of this cassette, I was listening to it tonight, is when finally there's like a pause in all the chaos and you could hear Al go, guys, why don't we just try to play something together?
Well, we play something.
Yeah, Jared's just hacking around.
All of us, we gotta all play something. Well, we make something.
So needless to say, that was a complete disaster, and Al and I just chalked it up to more experience, and we tried to move on from there. Because we were in junior high, we had a huge pool of people to try to find a bass player and a drummer, and so through connections, through friends of friends, we found out that there was this kid in a grade lower than us named Corey Swap who played bass. And we thought, you know what, as long as he has the gear, let's try him out and see how it goes. So we called Corey and we had him bring his bass and his practice amp. And I remember we were walking through my neighborhood because we're going to go to my basement and try him out. And we were trying to kind of have fun and kind of haze him a little bit. And we're walking down the sidewalk and Al points at a random house and he goes, Corey, just go to Mike's house over there and go in the basement and just start jamming, warm up a little bit. We'll be there in a little while. Well, that wasn't my house. It was just, like I said, a random house. And Corey got all the way up to the front door and he was about to go inside when he figured out that we were messing with him. And he turned around, he's like, oh, come on, guys, that's not his house. Al and I were laughing so hard, thinking of how funny that would have been if he would have went in the basement, just some random guy's house, and started playing bass. But that didn't end up happening. Probably for the better. Eventually, we made it to my basement and we jammed together, and it was really cool for Al and I to experience an actual bass player playing along with us because we never had that experience before. So here we were playing Fade to Black and we finally had those low bass tones happening. It felt really great. The problem though is we still knew there was a huge vacuum in the band. We needed that drummer to finish off the band. It's of my belief that when you put a lot of work towards something, now you have to remember it's been a couple years now since my ice cream bucket days. And ever since then, I was trying to get this going, trying to get a band together. And combining forces with Al, and now combining forces with Corey, we were like this unstoppable momentum. And because we had that gaping hole in our group, it got filled pretty quickly, I believe, because we put so much work and time into what we were already doing. We never gave up. We were always looking for the next level to get to that next step. And because of that, I believe the universe kind of rewards you, whatever you want to believe. We were able to find our drummer pretty quickly after we found Corey. But there's one major problem, one major hurdle. And that is the drummer that we were going to try out. His name's Chris Blood, by the way. We thought, he already has the cool rock star name. He has to be our drummer. But the hurdle was that he and Corey were actually somewhat enemies and almost got in a fight a couple weeks prior. I don't know the whole story. We'll figure it out for the documentary. But somebody was bullying somebody and they almost got in a fist fight together. So we had to ask Corey to overlook that for the band's sake. And we just got to try this guy out and see how it goes. I mean, we already heard that he has this 9-piece drum set. He's pretty well off. His family lives in a house next to this lake. So, I don't know. We gotta at least try him out. We all go to Chris's house for the first time, and we walk in, and we're all sort of looking around like, wow, this is a really, really nice house, you know? We go into the basement, and there it was, the 9-piece Black Rogers kit. And I just got goosebumps because I've always been into drums, but I've never been in the presence of a drum kit like that. You know, I was used to ice cream buckets and aluminum drum sets. So we set up all of our gear and we were making all this noise. I found some footage of this as well. And we started to just play around. And the second we all locked in together on one riff, I remember we all kind of looked at each other and we couldn't believe the feeling of finally completing this puzzle that we've been trying to put together for so long. We finally had the full band. I believe we started with Ride the Lightning and we played that main riff. And when it finally locked in and we all got chills, I think all of our DNA changed at that very moment. Al and I had a very special moment because we were trying for so long to get this band together that we finally looked at each other with a bit of relief and joy. We're just like, it's happening. We're here. We figured it out. We found the pieces. Not to mention the electricity you feel when you finally lock into a full band and you're playing music that you love. There's nothing like it. And we started to play people's birthday parties. We played the school talent show. All this is going to be covered in the documentary. We'll go into more detail with a lot of footage. But things just kept snowballing for us. We went from that all the way to getting signed, playing huge shows for a lot of people sometimes. We are And even to this day, we're still a band. And because of my channel, there's been a resurgence for the popularity of this crazy teenage metal band from the 90s. I think combined together, all the Sanctus themed videos have gotten more than 100,000 views. And that blows my mind all the time because I think of sometimes we'd have shows back in the day where we would play for like 2 people, you know, our manager and the sound guy or something. So to still be together, to still be best friends with these guys, and to still play shows, and then on top of that, to have all these people on YouTube rediscovering the music that we put out all those years ago, is just some weird dream. So let me know in the comment section if you ever had success in putting a band together, or if you tried and it just never worked out so you just gave up. It'd be really cool to hear your story. Okay, everyone, keep an eye out in the next year for the full Sanctus documentary, but this is just a little taste of the origin story of how we got together as crazy little teenage kids. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you at the next video. Bye-bye.